So we took a chance and came down in the middle of the day. So we actually spent like 18 hours. We came down in daylight and checked everything out. And then when sun went down, we broke off into groups and investigated throughout the entire night. And it was a really, really active night. The Central State campus at that point in time was huge. They had partially demolished a couple buildings, but you could still walk through the rubble. I mean, it was wide open. And then at one point in time, there was a guy, we were looking at this chapel. There was a chapel on the property, and there was a huge fence around it. And this guy had come rolling through in a car, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm one of the contractors that works here on site. If you go around that fence where that corner is and then go down a few of the poles, you'll notice there's a slit in the fence. You can get right in and go into that chapel." And then the guy just drove off. We never saw him after that. Huh. And so sure enough, I mean, we were able to even get in through the chain link fence and investigate the chapel, which was a really, really crazy experience for us as well. And it was the very following weekend. There was a couple groups that tried to get in, and they literally shut it down. So we got in on the last weekend that they allowed anybody in there, and we were quite lucky. And I always wanted to go back and check that place out.
Wow.
So, and then places that I frequent. I usually do a couple events at the Hannah House every year. The Hannah House to me is like a second home. And the Bel Air House over in Bel Air, Ohio, Kristen Lee's place.
Right.
I absolutely love it over there.
That's over on the eastern part of Ohio.
It is. As a matter of fact, if you stand out on the porch of the Bel Air House and look straight out, you look right across the Ohio River at West Virginia. So it's that close. No. I mean, you could take out a pea shooter and hit somebody across the state line from where her house is.
Does she live in the house, or
no.
They just use it to let people come in to investigate?
She did at first for many years, a couple of years that she had actually lived there. And you have to read the story. I want to say that it's called 1699 Belmont Street or Belmont Ave. And she tells a story about how she had nowhere to go, and this home was it. And they almost lost it in the flood. And, it was kind of like her savior, and it turned out to be just this really, really terrible place. And, they had to move. So she kept the house. She lives in another home. And, of course, the Bel Air house, believe it or not, if you walked in, you wouldn't know that nobody lived there because it's fully furnished. I mean, if you go there as a guest, you stay there for the weekend. There's probably food in the refrigerator. There's probably pop in there for you to drink. There's coffee in there for you to make. All you got to do is just clean up after yourself when you're done. Kristen is an amazing host. So the Bel Air house itself, to me, is like a home away from home, but it doesn't disappoint. Okay, so that's the reason why I keep going there. I've laid in bed there before in the morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning and was awoken to the sound of something walking up the stairs, like boots clopping on the hardwood stairs and stopping just short of the door. Where I should be seeing somebody walk past the door, nobody ever does. And, that's happened on multiple occasions, So it's a real thrill sleeping in some of these places. Post Town. I love to investigate Post Town School. Of course, you've been to the Post Town non-con event that me, Keith, and Daryl put on every year.
Yeah, I've been to about 3 or 4 of them. I've done my show from there, I think, a couple times. I haven't done it for a while, but I have done that. So I like going there. I haven't really went through to actually investigate it, and I'll tell you why. Because usually when you have those events, there is a ton of idiots that runs around through there after the event, and you aren't going to get anything because they're running around with their little or just all kinds of stuff, and you never get anything. So
true. Here's the thing about that though, we honest to God try to make that the best experience for those people who pay, because we only charge $35 at the door for the night.
Right.
And for the entire day, the free event, all the stuff that Daryl and Brenda Wisman put into it. It's just kind of our way to raise a little bit of money, put back in his pocket at the end of the weekend
Right.
if we can. You know what I mean? So, but even us, I mean, we cap that off usually at 20, and we sometimes don't even reach 20 people. So you get a good group of 4 or 5 people and break them up in different ways. You break every hour and switch places. It turns out to be a pretty good night. Everybody usually starts to fall off like right around midnight or 1 a.m. So if you're one of those people that bought the ticket and you're in there for the long haul from the 2 to 3 a.m., or 1 to 3 a.m., that's a prime time in that school.
Yeah.
Seems like when people start falling off and leaving for the night, the school really starts to get active.
Yeah. Usually
Uh,
by then I'm in bed.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure. I'll tell you right
Right.
now, I'm only 42 years old, but even anymore, staying up late, especially after doing an event like that all day,
Yeah.
and you're up at 7 or 6:30 a.m. and then you're still up at 3 o'clock in the morning the next morning. It's starting to take a toll on me too. I mean, I almost have to take an entire day just to recuperate
Yeah. Well,
from that.
I'm 73, so I don't stay up late at night.
If you know what, if I ever make it to 73, I am just going to be happy to be on this side of the dirt, buddy. you know,
Uh,
I mean, that's how I feel about that. But each year I sleep inside of Post Town too. I stay the night inside that school.
oh, do you? Wow.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Many times alone. It just
Well,
and
there's
Daryl, they've got a couple little apartments in there. Not a couple. I think they got one spare apartment in there
they
that
do.
they have for
Yes.
guests,
Yeah. Um,
and I usually get that each year.
they there are some other good places that I've been into in Middletown. One is the Middletown Historical Society. It used to be a home for women,
Mm-hmm.
and it used to be a mortuary, a funeral
Oh,
home. Yeah, they did the embalming and everything in the basement and brought the people up on a like a little elevator type thing, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they have the historical stuff in all the different rooms, not just from that, but they've had big companies donate old, big, huge cameras and different things like that. I mean, they've got all kinds of old antique stuff in there.
I would, that's one thing that I really don't do often enough, and it's usually because it's on a Saturday and those places are closed.
Right.
Is really, when I go to investigate and I go out of town, the first thing I like to do when I roll into town is get to the hotel or wherever it is we're staying, even if we're staying on site, unpack, relax, throw my shoes on because I usually drive in my socks, and go out and explore the town. And unfortunately, the cool things like the historical societies are often closed. When you roll into town, especially these small places where some of
Right.
the best places are. I've never been in the historical society in Middletown before, so I might just have to do that.
You'll have to check it out. And there's another place that uh, they don't allow people to really go to investigate. Um, and I'll put a plug in for me, other than me, and it's the Preble County Historical Society. Um, I've I go there. Well, I can't right now because the coronavirus thing, but normally I would be there at least once a month, if not more, and we would do investigations there. I've done them in the daytime. I'll go there sometimes, and we'll just go upstairs. Me and Misty, who is the caretaker there,
Hmm.
and we'll go up there and just sit and ask questions. There's a little girl that's up there.
Hmm.
Um, there's an older man downstairs who is grumpy, but he's not mean. And there's the woman who had owned the house there.
Oh,
It's really, I mean, they got it fixed up really nice, and they have the antiques and fixed up, and it's got an old barn. It's got a brand new museum building on the
no, very
outside.
cool.
Oh yeah, and it's got an amphitheater on the outside. It's got a log cabin. It's
Oh,
got
wow.
they got like 200 some acres. So it's
Very
real.
nice.
It's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But it's open during the, well, as soon as Corona's over with. You can go out there during the week and tour it for free. They don't charge anything for it.
Oh, that's cool. So it's basically like almost like a period style farm where you just go there and see what life was like, or
Well, it's not. It's only two people: the groundskeeper and then
okay,
the girl who stays there.
all right,
But their main office is in Middletown. But she works from that home all the time. And
yeah.
it's a two-story home, old, built in the 1800s, but
Oh,
it's in real good shape.
I love places like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kudos to you on the daytime investigating, by the way. I absolutely love daytime investigating. A lot of people, I know a lot of people that don't do it. I know a lot of people ask me all the time, how's come you guys never daytime investigate? I said, you know what? I do. But, if you're in a more busier place, obviously it's better to investigate at night.
Right.
But at the same time, though, too, some places are just more active during the day.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's really unbelievable. I was touring through a cemetery. Now, I'm not much of a cemetery investigator, but back, I don't know, 2005, 2006 area, it wasn't beyond me to go investigate and just kind of pull out a voice recorder and do a small session. And I'm going through the cemetery. It's actually called the Catholic Cemetery, and as I'm going around the back side of it, it's about noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. I started noticing all these teddy bears, and when I really started to slow down and look, I realized that this is where all of the children of the cemetery are buried. They buried all the children in one single area.
Huh.
So you have all these very, very small miniature gravestones with teddy bears and little statues and little trinkets and things like that. It's really the feeling there is very calm and very relaxed, and it's very sad at the same time. But, I got out and I turned on my voice recorder. I was just using a regular plain Olympus. It didn't even have a USB port on it at this point. And all I was doing was just walking in between the rows of the gravestones, and I stopped at this one place. There was a bear that looked like somebody had just literally placed it there because it rained really hard the day before, and this bear was brand new, still white, and it was dry. And I just stopped and I just asked if anybody was with me. If anybody was here, can anybody hear me? Would anybody like to play? And a Class A EVP, clear as day, you just hear this little girl say, "Can Jenny come home?" And I didn't find that out until about 3 months afterwards, and I was bored, and we were caught up on everything that had recorded previously. And then I had this recorder, and I'm just like, I never went through that stuff, so let me pull this out and go through it. And I found that EVP. And, I'd gone back there 5 or 6 other times and never again recorded anything or had any contact with anything. But again, I mean, that was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, there was a funeral going on about 200 yards away from where I was at.